the 18th day of October 2024 and you're right on time for K24's Newdon. My name is Joel Chacha. Today being on a Friday, we focus on the latest. That is the Deputy President, the second Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua, was impeached last night by the Senate, which actually upheld the impeachment. 5 grounds out of 11 removed Rigathi Gachagua from office. This is after senators voted ground by ground. This is different compared to how the National Assembly voted on the impeachment motion that was tabled by Mwengi Mutuse, who is the Kibwezi West Member of Parliament. And today, we wake up to a country that so far has no deputy president. This is in spite of just when President William Ruto took over office, that is on September 13th, 2022. It is exactly 766 days, and today we wake up to a country with a no sitting deputy president. Rigathi Gachagua was ousted while in hospital, Karen Hospital, admitted as a result, of course, of experiencing intense chest pains. According to his doctor, it could take about 72 hours for Rigathi Gachagua, to be discharged. But despite that, the senators voted in support of not extending the timelines of removing from office or consideration of that matter that was before them, citing that it had limits, time limits, and so there was need to complete it before midnight yesterday. And so Rigathi Gachagua, at around 2:30 p.m., he did not show up, and what his lawyer, that is a lead counsel, Paul Mwite, said he was not aware of his whereabouts, but later on, he actually updated that Rigathi Gachagua was sick. However, he was not clear in which hospital Rigathi Gachagua had been admitted. The sittings of the Senate were forced to adjourn up to around 5 p.m. I was actually at the Senate, and by 5 p.m., Paul Mwite came with a response that his client, that is Rigathi Gachagua, had been admitted at the Karen Hospital. However, he wasn't sure of the timelines that Rigathi Gachagua could be in hospital. Also, he could not be able to provide medical reports as a result of doctors attending to Gachagua, actually in what they consider was a priority then. And so the Senate was also forced to take another 10 minutes to deliberate on what next or how they would handle that matter. And Amason Kingi, who is the Speaker of the Senate, threw the ball to the senators who then voted on whether the House should adjourn until Tuesday as requested by Rigathi Gachagua's counsel. However, they decided that despite Rigathi Gachagua not giving or putting a spirited defense against his ouster, they would proceed to debate and cast a vote as far as, of course, removing from office the deputy president is concerned. And around by 11 p.m. last evening or last night, Rigathi Gachagua was ousted. 5 out of 11 grounds were, or he was found guilty. So even one ground, actually, according to lawyers, is enough to have sent him home. And already, the Speaker, that is Amason Kingi, has gazetted the removal of Rigathi Gachagua as the deputy president. Officially, he ceases to be the second in command. Some of the grounds that Gachagua was removed, that is ground 1 on shareholding, ground 4 on undermining the independence of judges, ground 5 on the National Cohesion and Integrity Act, ground 6 crimes under National Cohesion Act, ground 9 gross misconduct, that is publicly attacking the National Intelligence Service. That happened during the Gen Z demos. And so those are just some of the grounds, actually 5 grounds that caused the removal of Rigathi Gachagua from office. He's still in hospital. His allies have spoken. They have lamented that that was so unfortunate to remove Rigathi Gachagua while he's still admitted. They say it stinks to the highest heaven, the fact that there is no consideration for the second in command who was hospitalized, and no one would have preempted that scenario or that situation. And so many opine that there was no need to rush. However, already the special sittings had been slated for for today, in what many believe is for consideration of the new nominee of the deputy president's position. And it is now a matter of wait and see who President William Ruto will nominate to fill the vacancy. That is the Deputy President's office. And so today, special sittings will be taking place at the National Assembly in consideration of the new nominee. And possibly tomorrow by 8 a.m., the new Deputy President will be sworn in. And his first or her first assignment come Sunday, which is Mashujaa Day, will be to welcome President William Ruto at Kwale, where the celebrations will be marked. And so all eyes at President William Ruto on who he will pick to replace Rigathi Gachagua, or whether the courts can actually give interim orders to restrain the swearing in of any deputy president or the replacement of Gachagua, in other words, or as well to let Gachagua remain in office until all the cases are heard and determined. This is the biggest conversation of today, and all our focus is right on that. We'll be getting as many views as possible. Start the conversation of our social media platforms at KE24 TV, at Joel Chacha, as well on our SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. I'll be glad to sample your feedback before wrapping up New Dawn this morning. We have a special focus on these from right now 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and as well 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And my colleagues, that is the Swahili desk, will pick it up from there. And also we'll be bringing you the live updates from the National Assembly, where there is a special sitting. This first segment, I'll be having a sit-down with Honorable James Gakuya, who is already in studio. He is the Embakasi North Member of Parliament, also the chair of the Trade Committee of the National Assembly, a close ally of Rigathi Gachagua, who is now a former deputy president. He will be reacting to his ouster. Samuel Pogisho is a former minister. He once served, of course, as a minister. Then, nowadays, they are considered as a cabinet secretaries. Also, Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, the Mbeere North Member of Parliament, who is actually vouching for Kithure Kindiki to take over the mantle from Gachagua. Currently, Kithure Kindiki is the interior boss. A conversation that will be engaging right here in studio. Once again, I'll be glad to sample your views, your feedback, your reaction as far as this whole matter is concerned. In the second segment, I'll be hosting Odhiambo Otieno, a political analyst, Morara Omoke, an advocate of the High Court, and as well Jackson Ngoima, a political analyst. But first of all, let's begin with what is on our dailies this morning. The People Daily, that is Kenya's #1 free newspaper, has captioned the end of an era after protracted hearings and game of wits by top lawyers in the Senate. Preachy members fired Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for gross misconduct, a violation of the Constitution, and his oath of office. That is on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily. Actually, page 3, page 4, and page 5 of the People Daily, on how DP met his Waterloo in a Senate impeachment trial. This is a story written by People Daily's very own Mercy Mwai, that this is justice for the children of his late brother. When widows cry for justice, God answers them. Today is the answer. Those were the words of Senate Minority Leader Stewart Madzayo as the senators debated Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's removal from office. In a historic move, senators yesterday concurred with a motion from the National Assembly that Gachagua should be removed from his #2 spot for gross misconduct, a violation of the Constitution, as well as oath of office. The soul of his late brother, the late Nyeri Governor Nderitu Gachagua, resurrected to haunt the DP, who was accused of denying the deceased family vast wealth for self-benefit. The debate in the DP's impeachment took place as he lay at the Karen Hospital, and also we would like to wish him a quick recovery, where he has been, or he was being treated after complaining of chest pains. Gachagua was scheduled to testify in the afternoon, but did not show up, with his lawyer Paul Muty informing the Senate that the DP had been taken ill. Dr. Dan Gikonyo of Karen Hospital would later reveal that the DP be put under observation for at least 3 days, that is at 72 hours. After voting against the adjournment motion, senators debated into the night following a ruling by Senate Speaker Amason Kingi that proceedings could not be delayed. And actually, the Kitui Senator, Enoch Wambua, Agnes Mudhama of Machakos, Karungo Dhangwa, Kiambu, Samson Cherarke of Nandi, and his Nyandara counterpart, that is John Methu, were among those who were opposed to the impeachment. And there was actually a contention of why would the Senate be in a rush despite being enough time. Why was there a rush? It's also something that I'd like to get from my panelists this morning. I remember I'll be hosting, that is Samuel Pogisha, former minister, Honorable Geoffrey Rukumbero, North Member of Parliament, and as well Honorable James Gakuya, who is already in studio. I'll be engaging him shortly. He's the Embakasi North Member of Parliament. And so there is a whole issue of the rush that was witnessed there. And earlier, actually, lawyers from the National Assembly pleaded with the senators to uphold the decision of the National Assembly and send Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua home. In their closing remarks, the lawyer said that the utterances made by Gachagua were in bad faith and they ought to leave, and actually he ought to leave office. But remember, as it stands, Rigathi Gachagua is impeached or was impeached as the Deputy President, and the office now remains vacant. Anyone, if you have, you know, a good rapport with the president, you could reach out possibly for considerations. And so this is a matter actually that will now change the political landscape in this country. And 5 out of 11 grounds is what was being considered, or it's what was upheld, and Rigathi Gachagua was found guilty, and he is no longer the Deputy President. And so this is a conversation that I'm still glad, or I'll be glad to get your feedback on. But this is how the Deputy President met his Waterloo in the Senate. Now, still on the same page 3 of the People Daily, little known lawmaker who took on Deputy President as the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua actually was. As Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's lawmakers and some senators ran, rough's hood on the Kibwezi West Member of Parliament, Mwengi Mutuse, during this week's impeachment trial in Senate. This week, the MP cut a meek image. It was hard to imagine that it is this little-known MP from Makueni who took on and fell a Deputy President. Way before the impeachment motion against Gachagua threw him into national limelight, Mutuse had not hidden his political ambitions. The former student leader at the University of Nairobi made a debut in national politics in the year 2013 when he contested for the Kibwezi West Member of Parliament on a Wiper ticket, but lost to a businessman Patrick Musimba. After performing dismally at the Kibwezi West MP contest, Mutuse's star shone when he became the Chief of Staff of Machakos County Government under the Governor, that is Alfred Mutua, who is currently the Labour Cabinet Secretary. And come 2022, with the election at a fever pitch, he defied Dr. Mutua, who had switched camp from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza Alliance. On the campaign trail, Mutuse talked about enacting laws and sponsoring motions with direct impact on Kenyans at large, over and above undertaking projects funded by the National Government Constituency Development Fund, that is the NGCDF, for the constituency. Mutuse endured tight competition mounted by businessman James Mbaluka, who was flying the UDA ticket to win the seat on 30,821 votes against Mbaluka's 20,793 votes. Until he sponsored the impeachment motion against Gachagua, Many saw Mutuse's push to have the national government pay village elders a wage as the fulfillment of his desire to use his position to leave long-lasting impact on Kenyans. Now, on their presidential ambitions, as he campaigned ahead of the 2022 general election, Mutuse would consistently remind his audience of his days at the University of Nairobi and the re-election of former President Mwai Kibaki, where he played a key role in the Kibaki tenure campaign. Mutuse has built his career by shunning the de facto Kambani political kingpin and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka. The MP does not hesitate to explain what or that his beef with Kalonzo is purely political. Today, he remains the only MP in Makueni County who is leaning towards President William Ruto. During that time, Mutuse was the face of a faction of Maendeleo Chap Chap, which openly identified with Azimio Coalition, as Dr. Mutua led a second faction which openly campaigned for Dr. Ruto. He has since been projecting the image of President Ruto's point man in Makueni County. So for those who had no idea of who Mwangi Mutuse is, that is just a glimpse. More details, catch our People Daily paper, either an e-paper or in major towns. But basically, you can just download an e-paper for your perusal. Now, on page 4 of the People Daily, DP no show, but Senate decides to continue trial. DP no show, but Senate decides to continue trial. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua stunned lawmakers yesterday when he failed to show up or to turn up for cross-examination by lawyers representing the National Assembly. Gachagua was expected to take the witness stand, was actually conspicuously missing when the afternoon session resumed at 2:30 p.m. with his lead lawyer Paul Mwite leaving the chambers to go find him. Moments later, Mwite reappeared to inform Speaker Amason Kingi that he had learned that his client had fallen suddenly ill and had been rushed to hospital. The news appeared to throw the Senate into confusion, forcing Kingi to adjourn the session so as to allow defense lawyers to get an update on the DP's condition before the House decided on its next course of action. Chest pains. When the session resumed at 5 p.m., which informed the senators that he had actually spoken to one of the doctors attending to Gachagua at Karen Hospital and that the DP was suffering from severe chest pains. Intense chest pains is the word that he actually used, and was required to take a rest and could not attend the session. He proceeded to ask the Senate to adjourn the session until Tuesday next week, promising to provide an update on the DP's condition at that time. Mwite said he was unable to get a medical report from doctors to prove that his client had fallen ill and asked senators to postpone the sitting. Remember, this is the reason or a story of why Rigathi Gachagua was not present during the ouster motion at the Senate. And but the request was rejected by the National Assembly's legal team that is led by Siaya Governor James Orengo and Eric, that is Gumbo, with the former demanding proof that the DP had indeed been taken ill. Gumbo, although sympathizing with Gachagua's condition, pleaded with senators to allow the matter to proceed to conclusion, arguing that the DP had already filed his submission. The lawyers told senators to apply Rule 11 of the Senate, which allows such proceedings to continue whether the witness appears for them or not. Orengo argued that because they were bound by time, they were ready to forfeit their re-examination and use the submissions by that Gachagua had actually filed. He argued that they should proceed with the hearing as Mwite had not provided medical evidence of the DP's sickness. They also said they were not sure whether Gachagua will get better by Tuesday. So Orengo added that the DP, though he actually empathized with him, his action was opportunistic. Gumbo also insisted that they should proceed with the hearings and issue touching on the health of a person were beyond their control. So the procedural motion, at that point, Kingi had called for 5 minutes adjournment to allow him to make a to make a considered ruling on a way forward. When he returned, Kingi announced that the House will proceed to debate a procedural motion on whether to adjourn the session and return to the House on Saturday, the final day of the 10-day window granted by the Constitution to debate the motion to impeach a president or a deputy president. The motion was moved by Senate Majority Leader Aaron Cheriot and seconded by his minority counterpart and Kilifi Senator Stewart Madzai. Immediately after the vote, Mwite and his team of lawyers recused themselves from the sittings and declined to give their closing remarks on the matter. They argued that the client had not given them the authority to deal with the matter in his absence. And that allowed lawyers of the National Assembly to give their closing remarks. Gachagua had been present in the Senate, remember, since the proceedings against him started on Wednesday and had sat through the entire proceedings. Mwite referred senators to Article 145, 6 of the Constitution, which provides that if the special committee reports that the particulars of any allegations against President or a DP had been substantiated, the Senate will accord the President an opportunity to be heard on the impeachment charges. So here, it's a question of whether the Senate had to really abide by the 10 days period that is allowed, or they would have granted the request or accepted the request made by Paul Mwite, who is Gachagua's lead counsel, up to Tuesday. Actually, according to Dr. Gikonyi, it will take up to 72 hours for the Gachagua to be discharged at the hospital. So this is as far as Gachagua not showing up at the Senate is concerned. Grab a copy of the People Daily for more details. Still on the same page, grounds for DP Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment. Now, one, remember, it's 5 out of the 11 that caused his removal. And just to highlight, the first one was ground 1 on shareholding, undermining the authority of the president and the cabinet, thereby disrupting the national government from executing its mandate. Also, ground 4, gross misconduct under Article 160 concerning the independence of the judiciary. Gachagua is accused of compromising judges' institutional and decisional independence, thereby violating the principle of separation of powers. Also, ground 5, that is incitement to ethnic division and discrimination, a direct violation of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Ground 6 is also another ground that saw Gachagua removed, or that caused Gachagua to be removed as the second in command, that is engaging in illegal financial transactions under the Anti-Corruption and Economics Crimes Act and the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. That is ground 6. Also, ground 9, accused of insubordination of the president by publicly contradicting the president's policy statement and cabinet. This also features, the whole issue of attacking NIS in public. That is during the Gen Z demos. These are just some of the grounds. Now, he was not guilty of the following grounds. That is ground 2, engaging in activities that compromised the functioning of the cabinet and government operations. Also, ground 3, undermining devolution This is where the Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja was to testify against Gachagua, which is now this one actually talks about undermining devolution, a key pillar of Kenya's governance structure, by contravening Article 6, 10, 174, 186, and 189 of the Constitution, which outline the relationship between the national government and county governments. Also, there is ground, ground 1, ground 4, 5, 6, and as well ground 9. Those are the grounds that saw Rigathi Gachagua removed from office, and this is what has been highlighted on the People Daily. There's also an extension of this story that is on page 5. Tender puts DP at odds with EACC. Commission points a finger at Gachagua for actually irregularities associated with mosquito nets tender, where the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua found himself in hot soup after the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is EACC, claimed a company associated with him had irregularly been awarded 3.7 billion mosquito nets tender before it was cancelled by Global Fund. The revelation came hours after the former KEMSA CEO, Dr. Andrew Mulwa, implicated the DP in the scandal. EACC Deputy CEO Abdi Mohamud told senators during the impeachment motion against Gachagua that Shobika Implex Limited Company, whose local agent was Crystal Kenya, was favored to win the tender. Mohamud disclosed that investigations conducted by EACC had established that the sacked State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards, the Principal Secretary, that is Josephine Mburu, tried to change the tender specifications for the supply of mosquito nets as provided by the Global Fund to enable it to meet the specifications provided by Shobika Impex. Global Fund cancelled the tender following irregularities in the procurement process that the agency argued were skewed. The long-lasting polyethylene and actually the nets were distributed from November 2023 to July 2024 as part of the mass malaria campaign, but distribution only commenced this year. This is actually on the whole matters or some of the accusations that Rigathi Gachagua was facing at the Senate. He now stands impeached and ready. The Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has gazetted his ouster. So currently, Kenya does not have a sitting deputy president. It is a matter of wait and see who then replaces this man, Rigathi Gachagua. A conversation that I invite you to engage in via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Chacha, as well on SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of the screens. I'll be glad to sample them before wrapping up New Dawn this morning. As promised, my guests are already in studio. That is the Honorable James Gakuya. He is the Embakasi North Member of Parliament, a close ally of Rigathi Gachagua. Not sure whether he has already changed his position. He'll be telling us. And as well, a very key voice in this conversation, Samuel Pogisho. He served as a minister. We'll be getting to understand what are the implications, what does it mean for one to serve as the deputy president, what does it mean to sit in the cabinet, and much more. Also, set to join us shortly will be Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, who is the Mbeere North Member of Parliament, who is vouching for Kithure Kindiki to take over Rigathi Gachagua's position. Keep the conversation going. I'll be glad to sample your feedback. We take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.